calling in right now. We have special guests. We have AD Calvo and Joe Carrano, the writer director, right?
Yeah, I was actually I worked on the story and screenplay written for me by Rick Dahl.
Okay, so you worked on the story, but you directed the Midnight Game, correct?
Yeah, that's
And
correct.
I just reviewed it for Bloody Disgusting this past week. It came out on Tuesday, right? I think it was on DVD.
Yeah, yeah, August 12th. That's correct.
Okay, and Joe, you were the film's composer. Is that correct?
That's correct.
That's awesome. So, thanks for joining us. First of all,
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, thank you. It's a great pleasure to be part of it.
let me go ahead and ask you guys. AD, what was the mindset? Who came up with the film concept first of all?
Actually, my son Brett was scouring the internet for ideas and was
Really?
reading urban legends and creepypasta stories,
Yeah.
and um, uh, told me that this would make a good film, he thought. So I kind of talked it over with Rick, and then we kicked the story back and forth for a while, and ended up with a first draft of a screenplay. Now we continued to work on it for a while.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I saw one of the people that commented on the review actually said they think creepypastas are a great kind of gold mine, untapped gold mine, if you will, of ideas for
Yeah,
for
definitely.
movies
There's some
because
really eerie stuff out there.
it's a lot of messed up people that like to write random things. Yeah,
Yeah, for free.
exactly. Was it you that came up with the characters and the story idea, the overall kind of?
What I did is I knew a lot of the constraints that we would have going into production, and I actually had the house picked out before I even knew what the story was.
Oh, did you really? That's cool.
Yeah, it was an old house that was. The owner reached out to me. Um, they knew I had been making movies in the area, so they wanted me to come out and check out the house. And I went and looked at it, and it was really creepy and really kind of visually inspiring, I thought. And so I had the house picked out. Knew I wanted to do a young ensemble kind of horror film that took place in a house and was contained in that sense. Um, so then, coupled, with the Midnight Game idea, that was online from talked the story over with Rick, and I liked the repetitive cycle aspects of the story, and that there's a lot of doppelgangers
Hmm.
um, within the story as well. Uh, so those were kind of woven in there as well, and also a creature. I wanted a good devil-like uh, creature for the Midnight Man.
Right, the whole pagan aspect to it, right? The whole pagan tradition aspect of the
Yeah.
creepypasta. Yeah, that worked in nicely. I like the whole aspect that you approached it with more of an atmospheric approach instead
Oh,
of
thank you. Yeah, I love
yeah.
I love '70s horror films that were mostly atmospheric, as I think back, and I definitely like that nostalgic feel. So
Right.
I'll continue to kind of do that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think sometimes the things you don't see or the things that are left up to the imagination can be far scarier than what's literally thrown in your face sometimes.
Yeah, and far friendlier to low budget.
That's true. Joe, what was your approach with the musical side of things, with knowing that it was a more atmospheric kind of movie? How does that factor into composing?
Well, it's funny because we have an inside joke between the two of us because we've known each other for a long time, AD and myself. And I always go back to I'm a dirty and grungy guy, and it kind of just kind of you have to look at your dark side when you do any kind of atmospheric thing, especially for like a horror film of this nature and everything like that. And I just knew that the way that the pace of the film was going, it was always accelerating by the time you get to the end. And if you notice, the score kind of starts off really slowly,
Hmm.
and pick up and pick up and pick up until you finally get to the end, and it just kind of it was one of those things that's really like um, ethereal, I guess would be the word, you
You
know?
did. You're right. You played with the time mapping on the melody
Yeah. So
quite a bit. So yeah, we went to high school together, Joe and I.
No kidding.
So
That's cool.
Joe had scored all my films, and We're actually
Uh,
the reason why we're together today is because we're working on the score for a film we just shot over the summer. Um, so yeah, so it's good. It's music is such a big part of the feel of a film to
Mm-hmm.
me,
oh, definitely.
especially horror films, And it's like so yeah, I
That can
love
make or break it.
totally, totally. So I love the piano stuff too. Uh,
Yeah, that was one of the things I really enjoyed about the soundtrack, Joe, was the just the kind of ambience it had. It wasn't really in your face most of the time. It just kind of accompanied everything and kind of instead of taking over, I guess.
Yeah, that's like the big secret. But a lot of things I've seen kind of step on dialogue and you
Mm-hmm.
know scares too obvious by like accenting too much. But if you stay out of the way and you make the movie shine, your job is done.
Now that you mentioned the kind of repetitive nature of the whole thing, it kind of Groundhog Day-ish in a way. Um,
oh yeah,
Now that you mention it, though, thinking back to the soundtrack, that loop, the piano loop, kind of playing like when they're walking in the woods and things like that. That kind of comes into play now in my head. I'm thinking back to that, so that's kind of cool that you guys are on the same page like that.
it changes though. You like get a different version of it throughout.
Yeah,
It gets like a minor. It goes even more.
yeah. The melody changes throughout.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes major, sometimes minor, depending upon the time. And then we kind of completely meld into the ending score. I kind of have like two different parts because when they end and they figure out that they're like trapped in the game and everything like that,
Mm-hmm.
it disappears, and then it just like completely picks up from there.
I respect the fact you went for the kind of thinking man's ending too, AD, instead of just kind of, you know, finishing it just kind of black and white, like a lot of directors and writers do.
Oh, thank you, thank you. I love ambiguous endings.
Yeah, that's
And
It's
apparent.
great. It's great to hear that. Yeah.
it's a tricky thing because sometimes people feel like you cheated them or you didn't give them complete closure. But with in this particular case, you can't have closure because of that loop kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel that that's still an ending.
I think closure leads to no discussion, whereas open ended or leading into things can get people talking and keep the movie on the brain or the story.
Totally, totally, and it has this recursive quality. The story, and I like recursion in films. I was a software engineer before I went into filmmaking, and recursion always threw me for a loop in programming, and the ability of programs to call themselves and kind of be recursive in that nature. The story kind of does that, and as the one we're currently working on now, it's not a horror film. It's kind of a recursive plot. We had a good time making that film. The cast was super to work with, and we all had, they don't all go that way,
Mm-hmm.
and they got really lucky with this one. It's just a fun time.
When you guys shot it in Connecticut? Is that correct?
Yep, yep,
Is that where you guys are from?
yep, yeah. We kind of have grown up in this area. I was born in Argentina and then lived in Brazil for a few years, but for the most part, I've been in Connecticut
Okay.
my
Yeah,
whole adult life.
it's beautiful scenery up there. The whole tone of the film was kind of set also by the I guess by the DP, whoever that was. Um,
Yeah,
the the
Una was great. I
mhm.
found her through a friend, and she was originally a watercolor painter,
No kidding.
and she had this great sense of light. So we really connected on um, like she knew that I wanted the house to be really flooded in moonlight and
Yeah.
lit dramatically, and to do the candlelight in a dark house is going to be a challenge too. So combining that yellow and blue. Um, so we just she really responded to that, to the lighting and to a lot of the shots that I wanted to get. So we worked great together.
How did you guys decide on who to cast in the leads? Did you guys have any ideas of who
Yeah,
you wanted?
I worked with my casting director Kelly Lerner on that, and we did a lot of auditions for that
Really?
film. Um, yeah, we kept auditioning a lot of actors and actresses, and Shane Guy Wilson auditioned early. He was an early favorite, and just I was I liked him from the beginning, and And again, like all those kids were awesome. Really easy to work with.
It seemed like they had a lot of good chemistry together. Like they actually worked well.
That helps so much that they all like got along like that.
I can imagine that's not always the case.
No, I'm not naming any films or names, but I can tell you it's not always the case.
Now, the runtime of the movie is actually 74 minutes.
Yeah.
Was there a longer cut, or did you keep it shorter to keep the pacing going consistently?
I wanted to do a short film. I wanted to, to me, Academy-wise, a feature is over 40 minutes. From Netflix point of view, it's over 60 minutes. And I had seen a couple films that had run times in the 70s. I think Ills, which was the film that was the foreign version of The Strangers, I think, that Liv Tyler film.
Yeah, yeah.
It was filmed in Budapest. I think, if I remember correctly, that was pretty short. So I wanted to keep it short, and I thought that, this generation, I think the attention span is a little low, and I don't mean any disrespect by that, but
No, I
It's
think you
true.
I think you're dead on. Yeah.
Yeah, you are. You're dead on.
I think that movies are probably going to be a trend to shorter kind of films, especially at lower budgets. When you shoot a shorter movie, you can, shoot less pages per day and focus on quality a little bit more than trying to shoot 90-page script in 20 days. It's always a challenge. There's a
Oh
couple
well.
beats in it. They're never done once you bake it.
Yeah.
And still some stuff, obviously, that could be, if I watch it, I'm like, oh, that could have been shorter. And,
I think it's anybody that creates anything. It's like, oh, I could have done
yeah.
that different or better. Oh,
Yeah, like the woods walk, I always kind of like watch now, and I'm like, yeah, we made that a little longer than it needed to, but I guess it's kind of cool now. The walk in the woods part, I like the story there. So
I was gonna say though, most people I think are under the impression that movies are shot, over three month periods or so, because the major motion pictures are. But you
yeah,
guys, yeah, the more indie guys shoot in a couple 3 weeks, right?
right. So about this one was about 20 days, I
Hmm.
think. Um,
That's about as long as it took to shoot Halloween, I think.
yeah, I think Kubrick shot The Shining
Yeah.
in 9 months.
Right.
wow. I
Exactly.
just watched that
But
last night, too.
Did you really?
Yeah, I did.
and it's
Uh,
like amazing, like to you're asking for a miracle to kind of in 20 days.
oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's kind of
The fact
uh,
that you can take all those everybody combined and get something done in that amount
Yeah,
of
no
time
kidding,
is
and get
a feat.
everyone on the same page and getting along. What do you guys? What are some of your favorite horror movies? That's kind of a typical
uh,
question, but we got to know.
my two favorites are Rosemary's Baby and The Shining.
Okay,
And
cool.
to me, those are like two really big bars that are few films even come close. But they're both atmospheric.
Right.
They're not full of gore, and so I kind of just like that kind of thing. Um, so yeah, I'd say those are my two favorites. I don't know if Joe watches too many horror films.
Yeah, you guys would kill me because I'm a sci-fi guy.
Oh, are you really? What are you?
Yeah.
What's some of your favorite stuff? Sci-fi.
Well, just about anything, I
Yeah.
guess. Kind of grew up on all the Star Trek, Star Wars things. Still sit there and watch the classic Episode 4 Star Wars.
So what's it like not really being a big horror guy scoring a horror film? What is that like? What kind of approach do you take?
Um, well, when it really comes down to it, atmosphere is atmosphere. You
Right.
know,
But I make him watch a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
You're gonna sit down. You're gonna watch
I was gonna
this.
say because his stuff was kind of a little bit reminiscent of John Carpenter's stuff. It kind of made me think of Halloween with the piano riff and it being kind of repetitious and stuff like that. So it was just kind of interesting. I figured that
yeah,
might be some of your inspiration, but you're not really a horror guy.
yeah, we might have. I actually don't remember if we watched anything. I mean, did we? I think we played a little bit of The Shining.
Yeah, we always go back to that.
But that's kind of like I'm a very big vintage synth guy. I love all the old
Okay.
synthesizers from years ago and stuff like that. So
Hmm.
we'll always go back to that and see how that works. And then I end up trashing it because it doesn't work now. But just the feel for those things, kind of bring me into the moment to do whatever we need to do for the current film.
Interesting.
You know, um, I can't actually say what would be the connection.
So you do it in the synth instrumentation, and then you change it to more modern instrumentation. Is that
Yeah,
what you're saying? Okay, I see what
yeah.
you're saying.
A lot of times, you want to try to find a nice recurring, like that piano riff, for instance.
Right.
That was easy because it's something that does loop a lot. But even with more traditional score, you want to try to find an underlying theme, you know,
Mm-hmm.
that you get out, and you have to kind of basically do 5 themes throughout the entire movie and kind of interweave them in order to bring up different characters and stuff like that.
We worked closely, obviously, with our editor, Michael Taylor,
Yeah,
in terms of like cueing music. So oftentimes when I'm working with Michael, we'll use a temp track. So we'll take music from some horror films that during early cuts and lay in some temp music. I'm trying to think what we did for Midnight Game. I think we might have been using music from Dario Argento
Oh,
uh,
cool.
in early cuts. I don't even remember, but we always do that. It's just find scores to old films that have inspired kind of and have a similar tone. So it's just to give you some kind of rhythm when you're editing. Um,
Right.
yeah, that's always good to hear the score, as it were, too.
it doesn't become a hard template, but it's a template
Right.
to get a starting a conversation going. You know?
What other stuff are you guys working on? I'm looking at your IMDb here, but
Yeah, I shot a film called. Where I'm actually here scoring some of it with Joe. Called The Missing Girl, and it's my first non-horror film, although it's got definite uh, aspects of genre in it. It's about a guy that owns a comic book shop and is convinced that the girl that had been working for him, that something bad happened to her. Um, but nothing bad happened to her. We know that all along. He doesn't. And my producer on it's Mike Ryan, um, who's done a lot of films, non-horror films, but a lot of films that I respond to a lot and like. Um, so it's kind of a collaboration with Mike. Um, so that's kind of nice for a change. I think I'll be able to return to genre with it's a character-driven story,
mm-hmm.
and I feel like none of the horror films I've done have been character-driven.
Mm-hmm.
But I think after this drama, I get this done, I can go back and do something that's character-driven, like again Rosemary's Baby or The Shining, where it's not so much about plot, where
Right. Okay.
um, it's more about watching real people behave in real ways and react to creepy stuff.
Interesting. So, are you thinking?
And not
Would you go? Would you go for maybe like a? Trying to think of a specific example. Something like Midnight Game. Obviously, is kind of supernatural. Would you go for
yeah.
something more like kind of like a human-oriented horror? Kind of like a psychotic person or something like that.
No, I actually don't I don't know why I'm not like a big fan of the. I never watch like those kinds of films. I think it would probably still be supernatural, but maybe more like uh, um, a slow unraveling of character, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but um, maybe somewhere in there where we get to watch a character kind of change um, through the course of the story. And I try to do that with Midnight Game with the ensemble, but you don't really have enough time to do that and focus on character and performance as
Mm-hmm.
much. Because the story is more about like hitting plot points and making sure the story, uh, is about scares and all that kind of thing. And I'd rather do something that's more about just I don't know why, but right now Donnie Darko pops in my head a lot. So
Hmm.
something more like in that world, maybe.
I guess there's only one other question I had, and it's kind of more. You said you did what was it you said you did before you started doing film?
So in terms of other movies,
No, I mean before you started film, you said you were
I
doing.
was software design. I was like a software designer.
So how hard was that jump?
It was I did it in 2004, right when digital cinema was like taking hold. Like
There you go.
people were moving from film to digital with mini DV and 24p and that kind of thing, and like online editing. Like Final Cut
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
was becoming big, and so everything was going digital. And I kind of jumped in thinking, oh, this will be easy, and I was wrong.
It's easy. It's easier. It's
uh,
easier than stitching together film.
excuse me.
I said it's easier than gluing together film, but still.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny. I'm old. I'm not. Me and Joe are gonna. We're 40, 47, something like that. So we're a little bit older, and but I made the change as I was coming up on 40, and I wasn't like thrilled with software.
That's
Uh,
awesome, actually.
but I got good at it, and I thought to myself, well, if I'm doing the software thing and I don't like it, and I got good at something I don't like, maybe I could get really good at something I like. So I wanted to,
It's
since I was,
extremely logical there. That's good.
but I think there was some naivety going into it, obviously. But
Yeah.
I think we're getting our legs a little bit now.
Yeah, I'd
But
say so.
Yeah, it's
I,
good to see you come so far.
I enjoyed your movie, so yeah, I'd say you guys are doing pretty well.
really appreciate it.
Oh, no
And
problem.
really thankful um, for Anchor Bay and the Raven Banner guys too. Um, that's the reason why the film's out there. Those guys.
All right then. Thanks for joining us tonight, guys.
Yeah,
Appreciate you
thank
coming
you.
on. It was good talking to you. And for those of you out there listening, you can find the Midnight Game. I found it at Redbox, but you can find it pretty much everywhere, right? I think
Yeah,
it's
it's
most major
Amazon.
retailers. So,
Thank you guys. Thanks so much, and we'll continue to read up and follow your podcast too.
oh,
Yeah.
appreciate that. Thank you.
And if you're ever in Arizona, let me know. I love horror movies, so
Awesome. Thank you guys.